Hello everyone, how are you doing today? If you are new here, my name is Chelsea. If you've been here before, welcome back to Little Mountain Ranch. I'm really happy to have you here. We are heading down to go pick some honeyberries this morning. Once we're finished that, we're gonna make some sun jam, and then we're gonna head out on the tractor there and do some raking of the hay. Several of you asked in my last video if I could show you that, so we'll head out when we're done our other tasks. Raking hay is something that I actually really enjoy doing. So Dan's gonna go out and get started on it, and then I'll spell him off once we're done with our berries. Oh look, our borage is blooming. Such a beautiful plant, and also will self-seed everywhere. I've been really good at keeping on top of my borage this year and just keeping it picked. Anything that I didn't want to actually grow, but I wanted this little clump just because it's so beautiful and the bees just love it. We have zucchini that's starting to grow. These are called cue ball. Look at those little cuties. I think those are actually our first official squash of the year. Pickling cukes are starting to look good. The weather is going to be absolutely perfect for growing the heat-loving plants for this next week. So pretty excited to see what things look like in about a week's time. So these bushes here are haskaps or honeyberries. I have them all covered up because the birds love them as much as we do. Look at all the berries on here. So many. This is our best harvest ever for sure. They look so good. That's what a honeyberry looks like. So I just want to show you something about a honeyberry. So you see how purple that one is on the inside? Let's see if we can find one that's not. So when the honeyberries first start turning purple like this, it usually takes about a week or so for them to turn purple on the inside, like you can see. These ones are perfectly ready for picking. But even when they're purple on the outside, they can still be green on the inside. They're still edible, but they're just a little bit more tart, and they haven't sweetened up like they will when they're really fully ripe like this. I find this is one of the only berries that you can even leave on until it starts to shrivel just a little bit. It just gets sweeter and sweeter. And also one of the only berries that looks like it's ripe before it really is. So we are gonna get all of these picked, and then we're gonna make some sun jam, which is my favorite jam. This is so exciting because I planted these honeyberry bushes, I think 6 years ago. And it seemed to take quite a while for them to really take off. And this year they just exploded. And we're gonna get more this year than we ever have. This is one plant that I wish I had planted 20 bushes of, really. We all love these berries so much. They grow really well in the north. They're one of the first berries that are ready to pick in our garden. They're weeks, if not a month ahead of pretty much any other type of berry that we have ready in our garden. And everybody loves them. They are just so delicious. If you've ever had a huckleberry, I think they taste very similar to a huckleberry. I often say they taste kind of like a raspberry, blueberry, with a little bit of strawberry kind of undertone, but they really do taste like a huckleberry. But they're just so big. That's what I love about them. They're not like a dainty little wild blueberry. They've got some substance. So I'm gonna get these all picked. I'll be back with you when I am done, show you what we have, and then we'll head inside. And there were also quite a few questions about my honey processing that I'm doing, so we'll chat a bit about that too once we get back inside. All right, friends, we have our berries here, and I wanted to show you something that I have been waiting for weeks. Look at that beauty. So gorgeous. I love these white ones with the hot pink stripes on the inside. So beautiful. And they smell just exquisite. I have some beautiful pink ones over here. I think we need a couple of these inside, don't you? Look at that. Not quite the harvest we got the other day, but just as amazing. Finally getting our pool filled there. Our pool serves two purposes. It serves the purpose, of course, of fun for the kids, but also having that much water close to the house during fire season is good peace of mind. Okay, we are in the house. I'm going to show you the honey from the other day before yesterday. Was that day before yesterday? I think it was. Anyway, so this is the honey that I processed. I got 2 and almost 3 quarts of honey, and I have another big batch of honey here. If you missed my last video, I was talking about how I lost my bees in November to wasps. We had a major wasp issue, and yeah, they killed both my hives, which was really, really sad. But there was a ton of honey left in those hives because there was nothing else going on with the hive outside of the fact that it was attacked by wasps, which just made it worse. But anyway, there was a lot of honey left. I didn't have time to process it at the time. I was kind of at the end of the big harvest season and I just needed a little bit of a break. So I stuck the frames in the shop. Dan asked if I could move them out a couple of weeks ago, so I moved them downstairs, and now we're renovating our deck, or ripping our deck off because it's rotten, and I needed to move it. So it was either the choice of moving it to another location or just finally getting it processed, and that's what I decided to do. So it's kind of a big sticky mess in my kitchen and will be this way until I have the rest of this honey processed. And the whole process is not very technical at all. I have frames sitting here. What I'm doing is scraping off all of the honey and the wax into this giant pot with a colander on the top. Hi guys, cats have come to entertain you again. And I just usually put this in the oven on warm because I don't want to heat the honey up and kill all of those good nutrients in the honey. And I just let it strain through there. And once it's strained through there, so then at that point I run it through this honey strainer, which has a coarse strainer and a fine strainer on the bottom. And then I get nice, pure, beautiful honey to jar up. So I actually have this, it's just a little over halfway filled right now. So I'm going to put these into half-gallon jars, or this honey into half-gallon jars. And then we will start straining that honey. And we're going to use this honey to make our sun jam, and it's going to be so good. So the reason that I have a mat on the floor underneath there is just because honey is such a sticky mess and I don't want that mess all over my floor. And this kind of just keeps everybody walking around this spot instead of walking close to it and getting honey on their feet and then tracking that through the rest of the house. So here is our beautiful honey. So we're just gonna pour it into our jars. I hope Dan's not done all the raking by the time I actually get out there. I am going to need another jar. That's always exciting. Just went down and my freeze dryer was beeping at me too with the herbs that we freeze dried the other day. So we'll grab those as well. This is kind of a two-person job because I need one person to scrape, but I'm just going to be loading more honey into this right away because honey actually absorbs moisture from the air fairly readily. Whoops. And the less moisture we have in there, the less likely it is to crystallize. Now we'll pop that on there and run this honey through the strainer here. We'll do another round, but I'm going to save that for later because I really do want to go and do a little bit of haying. So we'll set that aside and let that strain through there. And now we'll get on to our sun jam. So I have all of the berries washed over here. Just going to strain out the water. Nice, clean, beautiful berries. And we're gonna add some honey to this. We're gonna add some lemon juice, probably around a 1/4 cup. And then we are just going to heat this up enough to soften all the berries and mash them down. And then we're going to finish doing the thickening process with the sun. The only reason you would ever make a jam like this is if you wanted to taste, these cats, if you wanted to taste the most delicious jam you've ever had. Then I highly recommend doing it, even if you just try it once. It's so good. Thing that I started using last year, maybe the year before, is a little label maker, because I inevitably find that if I use permanent marker or anything else like that, it ends up rubbing off over time, and then I don't know what is in my jars. So we want to use clean jars that are super duper dry. Same with the funnel or anything else. Just make sure that it's dry, because you don't want any moisture in these at all. I don't store my herbs for long-term storage. They're usually used up within 6 to 12 months or so. So I don't get carried away with using oxygen absorbers or anything like that. And for most of my herbs that I use, so this is Italian parsley, I just break them up with my hands. And for some things that I want to be really fine for whatever reason, I will use my Vitamix. Filled right up. That was just a tiny little bit that I had out there in one of my green stalks. So our freeze-dried basil, same idea. Just crunch it with my hands. Oh, it smells so good. Basil is definitely my favorite herb, for sure. So this is the funnel that we use for straining our milk, but it's nice and wide, so I can actually just dump the whole tray like that. Nice and efficient. I feel like if I just keep pushing, I can get all of those in there. There we go. So this is one thing that I do reuse my canning lids for, is for all my dried goods. There we go. So there we go, our first. I just got this one. It's a Brother brand from Staples is where I got this one from, but I'm sure you can find the same one on Amazon. But I really like it. I have blankets all over my windows over there because we're in the middle of a heat wave. And normally we don't need to have really thick curtains here because it just doesn't normally get very hot. But whenever we have a heat wave, I have to cover everything up to keep the house cool. Ooh, that definitely needs more honey. Oh my gosh. Oh, it needs a lot more honey. These berries are fairly tart. And I do want this to be definitely more sweet than that for a jam. I still want some tartness, but I don't want it to be like make your lips pucker tart. So I'm just going to mash up these berries just a bit. And then we're just going to pour it on to here. I just came up with this idea. Two ideas. One is to use my freeze dryer trays, because I actually have to move these out to the great outdoors to my vehicle. I did just recently get some lids for these, so I can lid them to take them outside and not risk pouring this all over myself. I wish I had thought about that before I went and used the cookie tray here, because this is just a way better idea. So I think I'm gonna move these over and actually move this onto 2 more freeze dryer trays. Just a much better plan. Okay, that was definitely a good idea. So what you can do with this is bring it into your vehicle, which I know sounds a little scary, because it is, and put it on the dash of your vehicle so that the sun beating through the window is actually what cooks your jam. And I know this all sounds so weird and potentially unnecessary, but it really does make really good jam. But I think because we're having such a hot day today, that I am going to put this out on the table out on my deck, right in the sun, the direct sun, because I'm pretty sure that that is going to work. So we're gonna try that. I mean, look at how gorgeous that is. So I'm kind of thinking that I can just stick these over this way. We just need to make sure that there can be some evaporation. Like so. That's gonna work perfectly, because the way that it thickens, of course, is through the water being able to evaporate off. So we're gonna leave that, see what happens. Dan's got a lot of the raking done, but let's go down and see if we can spell him off a little bit. No, sweetie, come here, little one. You're not allowed outside. You gotta stay, you're too little. Bobby wants to go outside so badly. Poor girl. One of our cats was actually attacked by something. We don't know what it was, about a month and a half ago now. And he ended up needing to get, like, he had a puncture wound in through the side, not straight into his lung, but into the lining of his lungs, so that when he was breathing in air, there was air coming in. It was awful. Anyway, fortunately, the vet was able to get him all stitched up, and he survived, which, I'll be honest, I did not think he was going to. So we definitely don't want that little teeny tiny cat outside at this point. All right, let's go back out. So I'll show you how we test if our hay is ready to bale or not. You can use a moisture meter as well, but this is the way that Dan and I were taught how to make hay probably 15 years ago now. So we take a clump like this, and then we go like this, 1, 2, 3, and pull. And if you can pull it apart, your hay is good to go. So as you can see, and you want to give it a good tug, but not have to like really reef on it. So as you can see this, and I can feel it in here already, still has quite a bit of moisture in it. So by tomorrow though, this is going to be definitely ready to bale. So you can get mold in your bales if there's too much moisture in them. And that's obviously an issue because it degrades the quality of the hay. It's not good for the animals, but it is also a huge fire hazard. So all of that heat can actually light the bales on fire. And one of our neighbors had that happen a few years ago. I think they lost 60 bales to that. And I've heard of people losing their barns and all kinds of issues. So there's Dan. The hay is looking so good, hun. Definitely the best hay year we've had in a few years. Where do I still need to do? Or are you mostly done? Just the back end? Okay. The back part of the field back there, he has it pretty much done, but I'm glad there's a little left for me to do. So basically how this works is these spin and they rake all the hay into these windrows here. So I got all the haying done. It took me, I don't know, it was a couple hours, hey, to do that not the logging, I've logging to the brain, but to finish the haying. So that's all done. Dan's going to do some baling today and maybe get it done, but we'll see. If not, he'll get it done tomorrow. But I wanted to show you the sun jam because it looks so good. And these trays with the covers worked perfectly and a lot less scary than trying to do it in my vehicle. Look at this, how beautiful it is. And then look at how thick it is. It's just perfect. And the flavor is incredible, absolutely incredible. So what we're gonna do with this is just jar it up into some clean jars. And this is actually going to go into the fridge and the freezer because I don't want to can this. So we're actually just going to jar this up and it's going to go into, or one jar will probably, actually maybe two, will go into the fridge to be used right away. And the rest will go into the freezer because I don't want to can this. I put all this effort into making this amazing sun jam that tastes so incredible, and I don't want to alter the flavors or heat it up anymore. through canning. Seriously, if you just do this once in your life, it will be worth it because it's so amazingly good. So I'm going to leave a little extra headspace on this for expansion in the freezer. And I have a shelf in my stand-up freezer that I can put those on so I don't have to worry about them breaking in the freezer. Look at that. Just perfect. So this was about, I don't know, 4 hours in direct sun. So just about 4 pints worth, which is fantastic. So if I haven't convinced you by now to try making yourself some sun jam, I don't know what more I can do. It's so good. I know I've said that multiple times now. But now it is time for me to sign off for the day. I hope that you enjoyed today's video and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.